The lithograph is a form of print that was developed at the very beginning of the 19th century. It's played an extremely important role for both the artist and for the general publisher until recently. Unlike the etching or engraving process, which limits the number of prints that can be made before the plate wears out, the lithograph lends itself to very large press runs. Lithography involves drawing or brushing a design with a greasy lithographic ink onto a specially prepared and smooth limestone, which is only found in one part of the world. The stone is then inked with a special lithographic ink, which only adheres to those areas that have been drawn on. The stone is then printed from a lithographic press. The commercial use of the lithograph was greatly expanded in the mid-19th century. Here is a piece of American sheet music with a lithographic cover, hand-colored, with a Tim Burton playing card to give it a sense of perverse perspective. This is one of thousands of pieces of sheet music. Not only was the cover rendered in lithograph, but the music as well. The lithograph greatly expanded the publishing industry in the 19th century. By the 20th century, it had all but replaced letterpress printing for book production, and it's only now with the advent of digital photography and printing that the lithograph is being used less and less for commercial purposes, but still is used for art purposes. As specially treated limestone was used up, it was only available from one part of Germany. Other printing surfaces were developed, including zinc, later on aluminum, and the 20th century development was offset lithography. Here we have a late 1970s catalog raisonné of the works of Miro. On the right is an original lithograph. On the left is a photo offset lithograph. The difference between the two, well, you certainly can't see a difference in the video. The one on the right is printed on a heavier matte paper. And it may have been done under the artist's supervision, although that certainly isn't guaranteed. In Germany in the 1920s, an important form of the illustrated book using lithographs developed. We now call this the German Impressionist book. Done in 1921 in Berlin, this is an edition of Ali Baba with lithographs by Max Slevo. With its warm and painterly qualities, the German Impressionist book remained popular, especially with the upper classes, throughout the 1920s. It used themes from the classics, from mythology, and from German Romanticism. It fell from popularity only with the rising tensions of the 1930s. Then the German woodcut Expressionist book, as we now call it, became popular, and then, of course, the lights went out. One of the best-known artists in the late 19th century to use lithography for art purposes was Toulouse-Lautrec. Not only his colorful posters, which started off as being just advertising and grew into something more than that at his hands, Toulouse-Lautrec also did a number of illustrated books, including his very fanciful and warm Histoire naturelle by Renard, dated 1899. Here's one lithograph from the book. You can see the text upper left, and all by itself are a little snail. If we zoom closer, we can see how painterly is the rendering of this. It's just like a black and white drawing, which is exactly what Toulouse-Lautrec is doing. Here's another important lithographed book. This is Paul Verlaine's poetry, Parallèlement, published in 1900 by Vollard. Actually, it's equally Pierre Bonnard's lithographs of the poem. Now, you can see the conflict going on between the text and the image, and you have to ask yourself, well, what's more important here? It should be obvious in this book by Le Corbusier, done from 1947 to 53, known over here as Poem of the Right Angle. It should be obvious who's won the conflict over art versus text. Let me put my hand here to give you some idea of the size of this book. It's all art. Even the text is lithographed in Corbusier's hand. You can have so much fun with lithographs, it's just complete play.